In only 58 minutes, she ruined the world number one. Nor in a game of practice, nor in a dream, on the biggest Indian Wells is the world's hardcourt stage. And no one anticipated it. This is the tale of Alexandra Eala, a 20-year-old Filipino girl who entered the arena known as the Fifth Grand Slam, faced the world's most feared player, and did more than simply compete. Point by point, game after game, she demolished her until the audience stopped watching tennis. They were seeing something quite different. An event that only occurs once per generation. Every installment of this narrative gets better, so stick with us. You must go back to the beginning of this in order to comprehend what transpired in Indian Wells in March 2026. It also didn't begin in the scorching heat of California on a WTA 1000 hard court. Manila was the starting point. A shy, determined Filipina girl from an athletic family was studying how to transform her undeveloped potential into something that might rock the women's tennis world in the junior rooms of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. In 2025, Alexandra Eala, also known as Alex to her friends, was rated 143rd in the world. Nor in the news, nor in discussions regarding the game's future. On a large list of names with promise, she was one of them. This kind of player is acknowledged by experts but not given much credence. Not quite yet. This is what they overlooked, however. Eala was not only growing. She was constructing. She was taking in information. She was researching every defeat, every close match, and every instance in which the game revealed a vulnerability. And one by one, she was carefully and silently eliminating those flaws. With the technical basis of a player who belonged in top company, she was trained by Jean Bosch and honed over years at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She only needed the chance to demonstrate it. That occasion occurred in March 2025 in Miami. The WTA wanted to see what she could accomplish, so she entered as a wild card, a player who wasn't in the top 130 and was granted a golden ticket to fight against the best in the world. Even today, it seems almost difficult to explain what she accomplished without sounding like fantasy. She triumphed against Jelena Ostapenko. Then she defeated the current US Open champion, Madison Keys. At that point, the tennis community stopped what it was doing and paid attention. She faced Egatek, who was ranked second in the world at the time, and defeated her in straight sets. Tidy, self-assured, and in charge. In a single WTA tournament, she defeated 3 major winners in straight sets, making her the first wild card in history. Give it some time to sink in. The first in the WTA Tour's whole history. She didn't end there. She achieved another first for the Philippines by making it to the semifinals of a WTA 1000 tournament. She became the first Filipino player to ever rank in the top 100 of the WTA by March 31st. In Guadalajara, she won her first WTA 125 championship. As the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam singles match in the Open era, she created history at the U.S. Open. She began 2025 rated 143rd in the world and finished it in 50th place. And Eala said on Instagram, "My dreams have truly come alive," in response to a question about what 2025 meant to her. Looking back on this year and reliving these incredible events in memory is such a blessing. This season and all of the feelings that accompany it are a love letter to my family, friends, team, all of the people who have supported me throughout my tennis career, and of course baby Alex. This girl has already accomplished the unthinkable. Before Indian Wells 2026, the question was straightforward and scary. Would she be able to repeat it? Would you want to discover what sets Indian Wells apart from all the other WTA events? The prize money isn't the only factor. It's more than simply the well-kept blue courts and the arid scenery. It's the mood. It feels like a Grand Slam in Indian Wells. Like when it breathes, the crowds are huge. There is constant pressure. The world's top athletes arrive with something to prove. And the name at the top of the draw for the event in 2026 was, predictably, the same person. With a baseline game that has at one time or another destroyed every significant champion of her period, and a serve that sounds like a thunderclap, Aryna Sabalenka, the world number one, is a formidable player from Belarus. At Indian Wells, She was the reigning finalist. She has just had a strong Australian Open campaign. She was aware that she was the unquestioned women's tennis champion when she landed in the California desert. Enter Eala, who advanced to the Dubai Tennis Championships quarterfinals and is now ranked 32nd in the world. For the first time in her career, she was traveling to Indian Wells. She deserved to be seeded. Only a few weeks before, she had defeated Jasmine Paurani, the 8th-ranked player in the world, in Dubai. She exuded self-assurance, energy, and the unrestrained appetite of someone who had experienced the grandest stages and desired more. However, there is a problem with Indian Wells. Your narrative doesn't matter to the draw. Your hunger is irrelevant to the draw. You are paired with whomever the draw chooses. Additionally, there was a chance that Eala and Sabalenka may face off in the 4th round when the Indian Wells draw was made public. The experts dismissed it with a chuckle. The bookmakers hardly looked at it again. Favorite was Sabalenka. The favorite was always Sabalenka. Before the competition, one expert noted, Alexandra Aya could be a dangerous floater. She went 44 against the top 20 and 22 against the top 10 and doesn't depend on her serve. There's a ceiling. It's an actual ceiling. Buried inside an analytical column that most people glanced over were those 3 words, that silent recognition. None of the commentators, analysts, or even the most ardent Filipino diaspora members who had been closely monitoring Eala's every move could have fully predicted what was going to happen on that court, so those 3 words ended up being the statement of the entire tennis season. The audience could not comprehend what they were seeing in real time because it was so quick, so tidy, and so mercilessly effective. Something that would be discussed for years to come. The game started in the Californian afternoon. Additionally, it was evident from the first game that Eala was unique. Not tense, not tight, not apprehensive, yet there was something almost uncanny about its serenity. She made a deliberate move to the baseline. She instantly disturbed the world number one's rhythm by returning Sabalenka's opening serves, those vicious, heavy offerings that had previously destroyed so many opponents, with depth and angle. As usual, Sabalenka attempted to intimidate her way into the contest. Large serve strong forehand pushed the opponent back and forced the mistake. It had been detrimental to everyone in 2026, it was working against everyone today, it was not functioning. Nothing was backing down. She was taking over before Sabalenka could reset. She was absorbing the power, rerouting it, and assaulting the open court. She was able to mix offensive with extended exchanges because of her aggressive approach, fast footwork, and rally endurance. And that balance was perfect on this specific afternoon. Before the audience had a chance to get comfortable in their seats, the first set was finished. 6-2 Eala. The stadium's atmosphere instantly changed. When a crowd realizes they are experiencing something amazing, a murmur goes through them. Somewhere in the top seats, the murmur began, and it spread like a wave down toward the court. Eala didn't slow down as the second set started. She wasn't waiting. She wasn't being cautious in the hopes that Sabalenka would lose it under her own strain. She was giving orders. She was forcing her game on the top-ranked person in the world. Each return was a declaration. Each shot that passed was a proclamation. The thousands of Filipina supporters in the stadium were standing the same kind of audience that had surrounded Eala in Manila and Dubai and made every competition she participated in seem like a homecoming. The clock indicated 58 minutes, 62 minutes, and 61 minutes as the last point touchdown before the game seemed like it had really begun was finished. The stadium burst into flames. There was a full-scale, thunderous outcry from thousands of spectators who had just witnessed a 20-year-old Filipino girl enter the largest hard court outside of a Grand Slam and destroy the world number one like she had done 100 times before. There was no courteous applause or golf clap for an upset. I lifted her arms. She briefly lost her composure as she gazed up at the sky. Not in sorrow or fear, but in utter, unbelieving delight. Social media took off in a matter of minutes. Not just in the Philippines, where there was an instantaneous, widespread, and almost volcanic response. However, tennis fans across the world who had been followed Eala's ascent since Miami 2025 felt justified. The analysts who had described her as limited but ceiling real were now re-evaluating all they had said. The match clips were being posted and reposted by former winners. The hashtags appeared instantly. Even before the post-match news conference began, Aryna was popular in more than a dozen nations. Sports writers from the Philippines were writing reports as quickly as their keyboards would let after staying up all night to watch the game. Within the first hour, the term historic was used in literally hundreds of headlines. However, there was also a deeper dialogue taking on behind the festivities, flags, noise, and unadulterated happiness of a country seeing one of its own do something previously unthinkable. Because Eala wasn't the only one who had a nice day, this contest made a statement. This kind of performance alters perception rather than merely winning people over. It completely reframes the debate about who should and shouldn't be at the top of the sport. Because this is what the stats indicated before that game. In the last 12 months, Sabalenka has only lost a few games. In recent memory, she has defeated every significant competitor at least once. She had a forehand that produced more power than almost every other female player on tour, and her serve often clocked above 180 kilometers per hour. Against a player making her maiden appearance at Indian Wells and one who is not in the top 30. It was expected that she would coast. Instead, a girl who had begun the previous year ranked 143rd in the world defeated her in less than an hour, by a girl who, a year later, had not only caught up but beyond. And Eala said something simple but significant at the post-match news conference while maintaining the calm, collected demeanor that has come to define her. I have faith in myself. For a very long period, I had faith in myself. All I wanted was for everyone to see it. The girl who got fortunate did not respond with those words, that silent, unwavering conviction. That was the response of a future champion. At this point, we need to step back from the commotion, the festivities, and the viral videos and consider what this performance really means for women's tennis as a whole. The next generation of tennis players and who would someday threaten Swiatek, Sabalenka, and golf supremacy have been topics of discussion for years. One name after another appeared and then vanished. The grind of the tour engulfed players who seemed to be the future. Careers that should have blossomed have terminated due to the weight of expectations alone. Potential is not treated well in tennis. Only performance is rewarded in tennis. Since Miami 2025, Eala has been performing, and not just in flashes, on a steady, increasing trajectory that hasn't faltered. She began 2025 at 147th and finished the season at a career-high 50th in the world rankings, making her the highest-ranked Filipino tennis player in history. Through 27 events, she won about $1 million in prize money. At the US Open, Wimbledon, and the French Open, she created history. Each and every Grand Slam main draw was a first. Each and every one was seen as an opportunity rather than a luxury. Crucially, this is the section that distinguishes the great players from the decent ones. Not only once, but twice, she has defeated players with higher rankings than herself. Svi, Paulini, Ostapenko, Keys, and now Sabalenka. They're not flukes. These are trends. After impressive performances in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Manila, Eala achieved a career-high position of number 32 in the world, indicating that her momentum is not slowing down. It's speeding up. Now think about this. She is 20 years of age. This is her maiden Indian Wells match. She has not yet advanced to the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam. She hasn't yet successfully defended a significant championship. She remains a player on the rise in the strictest technical definition of the phrase. The final version of Eala is not the one that defeated Sabalenka in 58 minutes. The early chapter is this one. Furthermore, that isn't hype. That is neither emotional projection from a people in dire need of a hero nor mindless nationalism. That is a frank and unbiased assessment of the data, the trajectory, and the proof of what this young lady has accomplished so far. Eala herself said, the obvious answer, which has always kind of been my answer, was to win slams and to be world number one, in an exclusive interview about 2026. Those, in my opinion, are sort of everyone's desire, and I consider myself to be fairly ambitious. She said it simply, without hesitancy, and without conceit. She is well aware of her destination. How quickly she arrives is the only remaining question. 58 minutes. It just required that not 10 years or a lifetime of waiting. Eala altered the course of women's tennis and the history of a whole country in only 58 minutes on a blue hard court in the California desert. She arrived in the world ranked 32nd after defeating the world's top player. She left, and she accomplished it with poise, accuracy, and the calm assurance of someone who always knew this day was coming, even when no one else did. This is the query we leave you with: if she can demolish world number 1 in her very first Indian Wells appearance, at the age of 20.